Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take complex information articles, research, notes, whatever you've got, and boil it down to what you really need to know. Today, our mission is, well, it's about cutting through the noise on a really critical topic, mastering B2B sales, specifically in the world of fee-simple commercial factoring. Now, that might sound niche, but it's expanding fast. And for anyone new to it, factoring is basically where a business sells its unpaid invoices to get cash up front, often without taking on debt. We're digging into insights from 8 really foundational sales books today. You've got classics like Daniel Pink's To Sell is Human, Neil Rackham's Spin Selling, and we're blending those with modern expert reports, focused right on B2B financial services, even looking ahead with some 2025 trends. So the goal is you walk away understanding not just timeless sales ideas, but how they directly apply to giving businesses that crucial financial oxygen.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, I think, is seeing how these long-standing principles are merging with everything happening now. Digital tools, AI personalization, buyers being much more informed and empowered. This deep dive isn't just theory. It's meant to be a practical blueprint for building truly elite sales teams in what's, let's face it, a pretty high-stakes market.
Okay, so let's get into that first pillar you mentioned,
Yes.
psychological mastery. The sources all seem to agree. Elite performance doesn't start with tactics. It starts internally with mindset. What are some of the key mental shifts these reports are highlighting for success here?
That really brings up a core question, doesn't it? How do you stop being just a vendor, someone transactional, and become, well, indispensable, a real growth partner? It starts with acknowledging what Daniel Pink says, that selling is fundamentally human. He calls it non-sales selling.
Yeah.
We're all persuading, negotiating, trying to get others to exchange resources, right? Time, attention, whatever. Pink found people spend something like 40% of their work time doing just that.
Ah, right. And he talks about the new ABCs for selling: attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. How does that translate to our topic, especially when you're dealing with a business that might be, financially stressed?
Okay, so attunement first. That's about really syncing up with the other person's perspective. For factoring, it means radical empathy. Just picture, say, the CFO of a manufacturing company waiting 60, 90 days to get paid. They are under enormous pressure. Maybe they can't make payroll or take that big new order. You have to genuinely attune to that specific frequency of pain, as you put it. Then buoyancy. This comes from folks like Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar. It's about building resilience. You face constant rejection in sales, right? Buoyancy means reframing objections. They're not roadblocks. They're actually requests for more information, for clarification. So when you hear, your fees are too high, what they often mean is, show me the value. Prove the ROI outweighs the cost of me doing nothing.
That sounds simple on the surface, but achieving that radical empathy, especially in a high-pressure B2B setting like factoring, that must have its challenges. What do the reports say about pitfalls, or maybe surprising ways to really get that frequency of pain?
Yeah, the biggest pitfall is just assuming you know their pain. You might think, oh, they want growth capital, but maybe it's about pure survival this quarter, or a very specific supply chain issue they need to fix now. You have to ask, you have to probe. And the surprising way to achieve it, leveraging technology, specifically AI, for what's called intent data. Think about it. The reports point out by 2025, something like 64% of B2B buyers will be millennials or Gen Z. They value authenticity, value-led interactions. So using AI to understand their online behavior, maybe even their company's sentiment before you reach out. Well, the data suggests that can boost response rates by like 93% because you're showing up already understanding their likely stress points or goals. It's kind of empathy at scale.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Using tech to enable, not replace, that human connection. So you've got the mindset right. You're using tech for deeper empathy.
Yeah.
How do we translate this into the actual, the nuts and bolts,
Yeah.
the deal engine?
Right, the operational side. If we connect this back, it's about moving past just intuition or gut feel to a really well-engineered sales process. And the core model the sources point to is this SBN inbound hybrid. Neil Rackham's SBN selling situation, problem, implication, need, payoff questions. That's like the chassis, the foundation. It's a systematic way to uncover needs. You're not pitching features, you're diagnosing the situation. You use those implication questions especially to really amplify the cost of the problem, make the pain tangible. You might ask, what's the actual bottom line impact each week? You can't fund that new production line. Or what happens if you miss payroll because of this cash gap?
So it's a diagnostic approach, and that gets fused with Brian Signorelli's inbound philosophy, which is more about attracting buyers than chasing them down, right?
Exactly, precisely. His 4 stages, identify, connect, explore, advise, they line up really well with how people actually buy today. It's buyer-led. For factoring, this means you start with solid research. You identify prospects in industries known for longer payment cycles, like, say, trucking, where days sales outstanding or DSO can be high. You're not just cold calling. You reach out because you have a hypothesis about their specific cash flow challenges already. It's informed.
Okay, and the sources also bring up Chet Holmes and this idea of education-based dominance. How does that fit into building this high-velocity engine?
It's fundamental, really. It's about being a teacher, not just a salesperson. Your marketing efforts need to produce genuinely useful, authoritative content. Think webinars on cash flow forecasting in volatile times, or white papers like financing growth without giving up equity, maybe even simple online ROI calculators. The goal, especially with what Holmes called the Dream 100, those ideal top-tier prospects you really want, is to surround them with so much undeniable value that eventually having a conversation with you just becomes the obvious, logical next step. You've already positioned yourself as the expert, the advisor.
Yeah, we've earned the conversation. So then what about the close? In this more modern advisory kind of sale, is it still always be closing?
Well, yes and no. Not in that old school high-pressure way. Authors like Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins really taught that closing isn't some trick or technique you pull out at the end. It should be the natural, logical conclusion if you've executed the whole process correctly, built trust, identified needs, demonstrated value. So techniques like trial closes are important. Asking things like, okay, in principle, does freeing up working capital this way make sense for hitting those growth targets we talked about? Or using assumptive closes when appropriate. Based on our analysis, it looks like we can start funding your first batch of invoices next Tuesday. How does that timing work for addressing those immediate needs? But persistence is key, and it needs to be scientific. The data we looked at shows 80% of deals in this specific space require 5 or more touch points. So your CRM isn't just a database. It's driving follow-up sequences that are relentless but always add value. Every contact needs to be helpful. And here's a crucial 2025 trend from the reports. Around 80% of B2B interactions are expected to be digital. So using digital tools for omnichannel engagement, email, social, video calls, etc., isn't just nice to have, it's essential for efficiency and just reaching people where they are.
Wow, okay. So it's a really comprehensive system, from mindset all the way through to these tech-enabled processes. What does this mean then for scaling, for actually building a team that can operate at this level, achieve this kind of velocity consistently?
Yeah, that's the next logical question, isn't it? What are the levers for really growing this capability, potentially exponentially? Mark Roberge's work, particularly the sales acceleration formula, really emphasizes a data-driven approach here. It's about hiring, but not just looking for superstars based on resumes. You define the specific traits that correlate with success in your context, things like coachability, innate curiosity, maybe a documented history of overcoming adversity. You build a scorecard for these traits. Then, once hired, you immerse them in a standardized, repeatable training system.
So you're really architecting the team, not just hiring individuals and hoping for the best. You're building a well-oiled machine.
Exactly, a predictable machine. And a huge part of that is how you use data. Your CRM, as I said, isn't just a place to store contacts. It needs to be a predictive tool, almost a weapon. You track everything that matters: pipeline velocity, conversion rates between stages, cost per acquired client, lifetime value. And looking ahead to 2025, the report suggests AI will get even better at this, predicting which clients might be at risk of leaving, or identifying prime upsell opportunities before a human might spot them. It's about turning data into proactive insights.
And it definitely sounds like the old walls between sales and marketing have to come down completely. They can't be separate islands anymore.
Absolutely critical. If we connect this to the bigger picture of predictable revenue, sales and marketing alignment is non-negotiable. They have to function as a single integrated revenue team. Shared goals, shared KPIs, shared understanding of the buyer personas. Marketing success isn't just measured by likes or MQLs anymore. It's measured by the revenue they help generate. And sales needs to provide constant, structured feedback to marketing: what messaging is resonating, what objections are coming up, what content is actually helping close deals. This creates a closed feedback loop that continuously refines your targeting and messaging with relentless precision. That synergy is the engine for scalable growth.
This really does sound like a total transformation, a real evolution for a sales org.
Yeah.
And the sources actually lay out a 12-month roadmap to build these elite factoring sales teams. Those objectives sound ambitious: a 20% jump in close rates, 15% faster sales cycles in a year. What's the biggest hurdle companies hit trying to implement that first phase, the foundation? Is it just understanding the concepts or something deeper?
It's often deeper. The biggest hurdle in phase one, the foundation, is usually cultural resistance. Salespeople, especially experienced ones, might be used to a certain way of doing things, maybe more pitching, less diagnosing, less of that deep empathy. So phase one has to focus heavily on embedding that advisor mindset, making sure they truly understand the factoring fundamentals from the client's perspective, and mastering those SPN questioning techniques. The objectives are aggressive, yes, but the sources frame them as non-negotiable targets to drive that change. A 20% increase in close rates, 15% shorter sales cycle within 12 months. That's the benchmark.
Okay, so overcoming that initial resistance and really embedding the mindset is key for phase one. After laying that groundwork, what comes next in the roadmap?
Phase two is called the deal architect. This is where you dive deeper into the practical application. Things like effectively converting those inbound leads generated by marketing, handling more advanced objections, especially the tricky financial ones specific to factoring, and really mastering that education-based prospecting, like implementing the Dream 100 strategy systematically. It's about moving from just understanding the principles to skillfully applying them in real, often complex deal scenarios.
Got it. So you build the foundation, then you learn to architect the deals. What's the next level up on this journey to becoming that financial oxygen provider?
Phase three is the growth catalyst. This is really where scalability kicks in. The focus shifts to things like data-driven pipeline management, using the CRM effectively to forecast and prioritize, actively optimizing that sales and marketing synergy we talked about, and mastering personal time management to focus on the highest impact activities. It becomes less about individual deal skills and more about managing the overall system for growth.
Makes sense. And then the final step, the ultimate validation.
That's phase four, the Apex Advisor. This culminates in a couple of key things. One is preparing for and ideally passing the Certified Account Executive in Factoring, the CAEF exam from the International Factoring Association. It's a credible industry benchmark. It also involves mastering the latest tools, especially those 2025 technologies like AI for sales intelligence, and becoming adept at hybrid selling, knowing exactly when digital engagement is best versus when you need that face-to-face or high-touch interaction. Ultimately, it's about achieving consistent elite-level performance and potentially even starting to mentor newer team members, really solidifying that trusted advisor role both internally and externally.
So wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you, our listener? We've covered a lot of ground. It seems clear that success in this specific area, fee simple factoring sales, and really, you could argue, in any complex B2B sale today, it hinges on a blend of things. Empathy, having structured processes, delivering real value upfront through inbound methods, building data-smart teams, and getting sales and marketing totally aligned. And these aren't necessarily new ideas, but they're definitely amplified by the digital, personalized landscape we're in, looking ahead to 2025.
Absolutely. I think the core takeaway really is that fundamental shift in identity, moving away from just thinking of yourself as selling something and embracing the role of being an indispensable partner, a financial oxygen provider, like you said, someone who architects solutions that genuinely fuel your clients' ambitions and help them succeed.
Yeah, that's a powerful reframe. And what's fascinating here, maybe a final thought for you to consider. Think about how these core principles, the radical empathy, the idea of leading with educational value, using data for precision, how might they apply in other areas of your life? Anywhere you're looking to influence or persuade or simply provide helpful solutions. Could be at work, maybe in your community, even just within your personal network. What's maybe one single idea from this whole deep dive that you could take and apply starting today to be a little bit more of an advisor in your own world?